Yo, sorry I'm late. I was actually, hang on. I got my music full blast right now. Can barely think. Someone asked me about projections and how they were going, and I realized I don't do any testing, so I was downloading them and trying to do some rudimentary testing on them. Got kind of distracted by it. How you doing? I've been thinking about these Monday grinds a lot. And one of the things I've decided to do is this is where I release the link for all the stats that I collect. Weekly, seasonal, the lot. It seems obvious, but also I got to make it more of a show. Like sitting here and waiting for questions while I grind is just kind of sucky, you know? So anyway, a link for all the data's in the chat from weeks 1 to 9, and also the weekly data for every player and team and defense. So if you're interested in data, all of it is literally right there. Hey, Nick, by the way, yeah, sorry I was late, man. I'm glad you could make your first one. Appreciate it. I'm always late, you know? I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, sorry, Brian. Yeah, I'm just running late. I don't know what to tell you. So I've been doing a lot this week. It doesn't look like it. It looks mostly like I've just been taking care of my personal grooming. I know. But thinking about the podcast, thinking about this Monday grind. Also, I'm working on writing a chapter for Jordan McNamara and his new Analytics of Dynasty or whatever it is. Primarily on rookie stats. What's useful? Why is it useful? How's it useful? And he gave me literally no guidelines for it. So I don't know. I've written a book. I deleted it. I wrote another book. I'm trying to write just a chapter. Recently, I've been grinding out some. I'm trying to make my process for prospects condensed, and it's a little difficult, man. It's a little difficult because it's fairly holistic at this point. I'm trying to differentiate it, but also try and gauge the scope of a chapter. What should it be? What do you want to read about in a chapter titled, something like Dynasty of Analytics or the Analytics of Dynasty, whatever the book's called. And my chapter is going to be on like rookie metrics. So what do you want to know? So I'm actually trying to present my process while also trying to actually show what's useful and what you can start to build your own process around. And no, I might just have to do one position because trying to do all of them is a little too much. But anyway, how are you guys? So one of the things I was looking at is I was showing which year from a rookie career, since everyone's in Dynasty who's now out of the playoff race is interested in next year, which year is most important? I get that question a lot. Is it their first year, their last year, their average? And I've done a lot of testing on it. I find the average to be the best single thing to look at. But that also means they have to play more than 2 years, hopefully, to get a good average. And not all players do. Some just play 2. And that's a terrible average. And we want to know about those players as well. So I've been running that testing again and trying to explain really why my process is a little more holistic for rookies is I like to understand the entire profile and then try to see how it fits together. So I build a narrative after understanding which years are important and why they're important and how they're important. And this is important for players like Jalen Reagor, for example, has a terrible average but a great best year. Great average if you take out that last year and understand the context of his offense that last year. But that's not very analytically of me. I think most analysts want to, especially that go through data, they want to produce a number that ranks players, and that's my ranks, right? A cure-all, the golden, perfect rookie stat. Here's the thing, just theoretically, I don't think that thing's possible. Anyone who's got a model and a graph talking about the perfection of how using hand size perfects the curve of success in the NFL, I think you're kidding yourself to think the real world can be represented in a single a prediction of the future. Like I don't think it's true. You have to have a wider scope than that. But I get that most people don't want to, grind all the data themselves, which is why they read articles and rankings lists, and they just want to know what to pay attention to. So I'm trying to condense that all into one chapter, like what to pay attention to if you don't want to do all that work, if you can't, because most people simply don't have the time. They have lives and families and so on and so forth. Hey, Spaceman, how you doing, bud? So, yeah, I've been working on a process of specifically just looking wider receivers right now, just taking the average. The average sucks for some players like Chase Claypool and Brandon Ayuk, and it's unfair for Jalen Reagor. But the average is the most predictive in and of itself. Let's look at the most predictive stats and just look at players that were over or below their conference average, because I know everyone likes adjusting for the conference, and in those most important stats for those most important years, in this case, the average, who beats it, who doesn't? Does it thin our pool down enough that we get a higher hit rate? And does it weed out the players we need it to weed out? And those kind of questions. And that's what this sheet I've got here was actually doing. I haven't quite finished it yet. But anyway, I've been working on that. And these are just columns saying whether they did or didn't beat their conference average in their average market share of yards, market share of team yards per team pass attempt. Dominator rating, but that's not college dominator, because that's a yearly stat. College dominator is a career stat that uses their best and last year's, so it adjusts already. And yeah, I've just been trying to see how well it thins a depth pool. So if we look at this is just wide receivers across those stats, and if we look at pick a year. Anyone? Hey, Crossover, how you doing, man? Pick a rookie class here. 2014 just seems like a cheat. Let's just go for 2018 because I like it. Now, the problem with looking at it so holistically, just if you beat your conference average, is it doesn't thin down the depth pool enough. And the players that it takes off, like DJ Chark, only hit it in yards per team pass attempt and college dominator, for example, which college yards per team pass attempt is probably the most important by itself. But college dominator is like the least important. So that doesn't help you, right? I'm trying to show how it's useful, but not useful. You really have to understand the player's career across these stats, paying more attention to these years, and then understand the context. And so it's a lot more of a holistic make a narrative process. That's me. And that's why I'm there, because a single stat won't get you anywhere. It's going to help your hit rate in some ways and can produce a nice graph to say that it's impressively great, but it's going to make you miss too often. It's the same thing with the 20 and the 30% threshold for a breakout age, which, RotoViz likes to push the 30% threshold, but you just miss so many players that didn't cross that threshold, but did cross a 20% threshold. Not so many, but enough that it's worrying. Let me see if I can pull up an answer from this class. Like if we look at 2020 class, players that didn't break out at an age 30%, but did it at 20%. Well, Jerry Jeudy fits that model, and so does T. Higgins. Most analysts that go through data, I think, pan T. Higgins a little bit more than I did, because his numbers sucked. But looking into the context more, I saw a pretty decent player who was over most of the averages, just not impressively so, and didn't hit a 30% dominator rating in a single year. But players have been successful with a 20% threshold. So, yeah, you miss T. Higgins and Jerry Jeudy if you use a 30% threshold. The benefit of it being that it also helps you miss on players like, as if we were really interested in them, Van Jefferson, Colin Johnson. These were low odd shots. I'm never sure what purpose of 30% really adds. It gives you a better R squared. I'm just not unsure it improves your results as an individual, as a person just trying to grind, But anyway, yeah. So I've been working on that a lot. I'm like 2 years behind. Even though I've only been doing it for a month, writing that chapter. But anyway, yeah, where was I? I've also been testing these projections here. Let me see if I can pull these up. So this is what I was just making what made me late. I downloaded all my projections week to week, which are all in here. And then the weekly results from the database I just posted in the chat with all the stats. And I'm just basically testing. Right now, I've just tested, R squared between what I projected and what actually happened. But this is an unfair result right now. One, because it's all positions in all weeks. And it doesn't account for injuries. It doesn't account for players that I may or not have projected because we didn't know they were going to play. And so I've really got to reduce the sample size in a fair way to get a good estimation of what I'm doing. But even just looking at it raw, I'm over 40% in most categories. PPR rank, PPR points and targets so far is the only ones I'm looking at, which I'm pretty happy with. And I've started to look at how it changes over a week-to-week basis. The reason I'm looking at it is, man, I can't hear myself speak, and it's hard to talk when you can't hear yourself speak. Anyway, Matt Spencer was asking if using touchdowns from Vegas projections would actually help in projections. And I don't know if I can show whether it helped or not, but I can show how well my projections are doing using it. And so I'm trying to narrow that down. Right, yep. 101, 102, 105, 201, 202 in a 10-team 1QB league, and it's not looking so hot. Those picks from this year, I mean, this was a hell of a good year to have that many draft picks in, unless you went straight running back, which almost everyone would have told you to do. Clyde's fine. So's Taylor. So's Akers. They're all going to be fine. Don't panic on them. They're not Saquon Barkley, man. Like everyone promised, every running back in this class was basically Saquon Barkley, but not Saquon Barkley. They're just not. They're just not. They're good, and running backs is where it's at for winning. And if you grab Rager late, then you're good. I wasn't big on Pittman, to be honest. To be clear, if he hits, that's a miss for me. But he's played like 2 games, and his usage has been pretty interesting so far in those 2 games, if I remember right. Let's pull up our weekly data and find out. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day because he played again for like the 2nd time this year. Whatever, in the NFL. Oh no, he's played a few games. Looks like he's played 5 games. Okay, that's less impressive. But let's see, what's his target share been like? Yeah, he's gotten up over like 15% target share 3 times, and that's pretty good for a rookie, or not rookie. What year is he playing in, actually? Yeah, I should point out in this week's upload, I added age and career year because it's something I want to start looking at. So in the weekly data, you've got age and career year for each player, which means you can, write formulas for how well rookies are doing, basically, or how old they're doing. And also I can limit the tables I make for my target share article that way. So how are the rookies doing this week, kind of a thing. I think I put it in the seasonal stats as well. No, it looks like I didn't. Okay. Well, I can add that in. I can add it in. It's already in the weekly thing, so I can just import it over. But yeah, Pittman's been interesting, but I wasn't particularly huge on him, to be completely honest. I would sell the minute he gets more valuable than he was in a rookie draft because I'm not a fan. But Travis May loves him. I'm sure Zach Reed loves him because he loves all terrible wide receivers that go to Indianapolis, So, yeah, I think especially in Dynasty, now's the time to buy Taylor. I mean, before now, it's the time to buy Akers. It was the time to buy Dobbins. Then they got a little more usage and their value spiked immediately. And that's why you buy Taylor. And if people are down on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'll take him. I don't care if I'm winning or losing. Like, I get it. He's not Saquon Barkley. Don't care. I need running backs that are good on good teams, producing good points, and that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, this is what that looks like, man. This is what that looks like. So pretty happy with buying either of those guys. And Taylor right now is the one with a lower value. I mean, but again, the week after his terrible week, he gets a touchdown. He shares the backfield again with Wilkins. But I mean, he's productive on it and clearly better than Wilkins on that volume. He just had a bad week in week 8. We can't. Unfortunately, that's the downside of rookies. You can't tilt over a single week. But we play a weekly game, and rookies kind of suck like that. Even running back. What young rookie wide receivers am I looking to trade for or think are possible buy low candidates? All right. Good question, fair question. I think it's one that they answer on a lot of different podcasts. With a really good podcast, good points. It's bullshit. I mean, I'm sorry. The question we've learned to teach ourselves about dynasty, buy low rookies. Like I can remember 3 or 4 opportunities in the entire span of me playing dynasty where there was clearly a player that was good or better than most thought, and his value was buyable or low, especially as a rookie or a sophomore. One of them was Tyler Boyd. He had a great rookie year and a terrible second year, but it was fine for a young player. And everyone was just like, well, we're done with that experiment. That was one of the times where you could buy low on a young player in Dynasty. I can barely think of 2 or 3 others, and none of them are coming to mind. So buy low on rookies, yeah, good luck. It doesn't happen. Not in Dynasty. People playing Dynasty don't sell low on young players. If their value is low, they hold. And if their value is high, they also hold. We're just too obsessed with young players. But, taking that out of your question, it's a good question outside of the framework we've taught ourselves to think about it. Which players would I want that are young and rookies and la, 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 la. Now, running back, interestingly enough, like Taylor, the value will spike up and down. That's why we can kind of do that with running back a little more. But, we held on to Sammy Watkins till now. We're still like, he could do it. He could be the next Julio, I'm sure. Some people every now and again, well, not quite that high, but like we almost never give up on him, especially in Dynasty. But so not buy low, but if they're rookies and if they're young, the ones I want are all of them from this draft class. I'm sorry, they're all impressing. And I did an episode of my podcast on how well rookies are doing, and it was like saying this copy and paste. They are all beating the average for rookies who go on to have 2 top 24 seasons. They're just all doing it. So awesome. I want T. Higgins. I guess the things I would say is that I'm sticking to my rookie evaluations more than most do because it saves me a lot. Brandon Ayuk has been impressive this year in the opportunity he's gotten. But his profile was still 1 good, 1 bad year, and I don't know what to make of that. Most players with that kind of profile, even with good draft capital and everything else, don't work out. And I'm not one to invest in the 49ers. So he's not someone I'm buying. He's someone that I would look to exploit any value spikes on. If that makes sense. If he goes low, I'll buy him and sell him when it spikes high because it will come back. Pittman, same story. The ones I want that I really am convinced will be good, that really will add dynasty value, that we'll be happy to have on our teams, well, they're all old guys. Those are the guys I want on my dynasty teams. But to stick to your question, T. Higgins, Jalen Reagor, like he's only played a couple games because he's been injured. He's been doing the same thing. He's been meeting expectations. It just hasn't quite blown us away for as long as T. Higgins, the CeeDee Lamb, who I also want both of them. If I've got them, I'm over the moon. Jerry Jeudy as well. I mean, he's someone I was on the fence with, and I've definitely been pushed over into Jerry Jeudy's a good young player to own. But I don't think those are the wide receivers that win you much. Like, wide receivers don't really win us stuff. The way we win using wide receivers is to flip good value. And all of these rookie wide receivers should be desirable on every team in Dynasty because we like young, successful wide receivers. And so depending on my team situation, I'll be looking to flip that value like liquid cash into more stuff, specifically running backs, when I'm trying to win. So team situation dependent that way. As far as wide receivers I'm buying in general, I've pointed out a few in my target share article. I think AJ Brown, maybe not after this week, but AJ Brown's value is a little soft. Like, he wasn't the shiniest, newest thing, and he'd been equally impressive this year as last year. But I'm pretty sure week 9 will have just killed that. Like, no one's now soft on it. They won't even pay. You have to pay more than his value, and at that point, it's not worth it. Also, I wouldn't sell him if he's on my dynasty team either. He's a strong. If you want to overpay, maybe. But yeah, so AJ Brown was on the list. Outside of that, my typical wide receiver buys are old guys, and that wasn't your question, so I'm not going to bore you to death with it. But those are the guys I target for winning. Now, if my team sucks, and I've got a few of those teams, and I'm looking at next year and the next 3 years, that's when I start getting interested in buying young wide receivers, because they're the second best liquid asset, liquid cash to draft picks, because young wide receivers, again, no one really ever goes low on them. So that's where I start paying the iron price for those guys, because I'm pretty sure I'll be able to trade them before next season or during next season for the same or equal value as they have right now. So if my team sucks, that's when I'm buying young wide receivers, and that's not really a question of who I like the most. Who do I like the most? My dynasty rankings after the draft, that's who I like the most. And it goes, I mean, I had it all out there. There are draft boards out there, but it's CeeDee Lamb at the top. I think I had Jalen Reagor second. Yeah, I think Jalen Reagor came up second. Let me look at the rookie board here. I rank pre-draft, I rank post-draft, and then I kind of hold on to them longer than most. And that's the process that seems to help me out a lot with rookies. I don't fall for small sample spikes. Here you go. Posting it in the chat. But let's see. Who do I like the most in the young rookie wide receivers? I like CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Reagor, and Justin Jefferson the most. They're in a similar tier to me post-draft. And everything about their current season says the same thing. Now, I guess Denzel Mims might fit a buy low, typical buy low view on rookies. Because his value probably hasn't increased a lot. So there you go. That's one that would probably fit that standard question, Brian. I want Denzel Mims. I don't think you have to overpay for him right now. Jerry Jeudy, we'll have to see what happens after he had a good week this week, but I'm pretty sure it'll be stable. So Jerry Jeudy's not a bad investment. I like going after Bryan Edwards as well, to stay with the theory of your question here. A young wide receiver I like. T. Higgins is someone that's increased. Like, I would put him up in this Jefferson, Reagor, Lamb category. So if his value is any less than that, cool. I think I have to raise my estimations of Henry Ruggs as well. This has been a pretty good rookie year. So I'd put him up here in the Bryan Edwards category, with T. Higgins moving up. But this is how well I like wide receivers. There's a few like Ruggs and like yeah, pretty much just Ruggs that I'm raising my estimation of. Everyone else, I'm still sticking to my rookie evaluation. All right. Sorry, I took forever on that one, Brian. I hope some of it was useful. But yeah, Denzel Mims, Bryan Edwards. If T. Higgins is less valued than CeeDee Lamb, and he should be, really, because CeeDee Lamb's phenomenal, and we saw that this week. Or Justin Jefferson, again, I have him higher as well. But T. Higgins has been really impressive this year. So he might make the list as well, with Bryan Edwards and Denzel Mims. Where am I going? Mims buy low. Yep. Buy low, I would buy at his rookie value. If it hasn't gone up, I will still pay that price. I would have drafted him in the late first round of rookie drafts. I will still pay that price. Basically, I've just got the benefit of someone else having carried him for a little while. My value really drops on players in their first year. It can increase, like I say. Ruggs needs to move up. Higgins, I move up in my dynasty rankings. But decreasing based on a rookie season, I don't think that's where the dynasty market is at, and it's probably not where I'm at. Yeah, that's what I'll say. Juju or DJ Moore? You couldn't get them even. No one's trading you Juju for DJ Moore at this point, because DJ Moore's continued to have a rough 2020, and Juju has finally sprang back into something of what he is. Sorry. So I hope, and I said it in my Target Share article a few weeks ago, like, I'm all in on Juju and will be until I see proof he's bad, and I have not seen that. So, like, I've been willing to acquire Juju throughout this season with Claypool and Deontay Johnson, also clearly proving to be, Claypool's proving to be a rookie. Again, I should probably raise my estimation of, but he's not hitting that top tier for me, put it that way. So yeah, I've been willing to buy Juju. I don't think after, what is it, 3 solid weeks from Juju, I think everyone sees the hope again. So I don't think this is fair. And in that way, Juju's price is now no longer low, and DJ Moore's is. So I'll be buying, if I'm buying, DJ Moore. If I'm in the race this year, I want Juju, because again, he's able to produce this year apparently. DJ Moore probably is not going to. Unless Robbie Anderson, being incapable of catching touchdowns, he's allergic to him. That's the only, like, he thinks touchdowns give you COVID. That's the only thing I can think. But anyway, if he keeps doing that, the usage will change in Carolina. And that's sad for Robbie Anderson, because he's been killing it on his volume. He's just been getting no touchdowns. But that's one of the things that can make a team switch its perspective, or other wide receivers can come up and create their own targets around you if you can't score on them. Right now, I still think he's just due a touchdown, but it's getting rough. So I'd be buying DJ Moore over the two, because I think Juju's value's too high. If I'm playing this year, though, if I'm trying to win, I want Juju. If you're talking dynasty buys, DJ Moore is clearly the better value right now. What about A-Rob? A-Rob's awesome. You should keep buying him. He's on Team All Guy now, too, so he should get an extra discount this offseason, and I'll be looking forward to it. He's just good, man. He's just very good. No, Will Fuller is sneakily the wide receiver 1 in Houston, but Brandon Cooks is sneakily Brandon Cooks, like the guy who produces pretty much 1,000 yards every year. But of the group there, and I love Randall Cobb, Team All Guy, man, and I love Will Fuller. I acquired a lot of Will Fuller this offseason, and Brandon Cooks. These are good players. None of them are DeAndre Hopkins or Julio Jones or that category, or Calvin Ridley for that matter. He seems to be climbing into that potential range, which is pretty impressive to me. But I think Will Fuller is the most likely and has the highest ceiling. I just do. It's easy to rope Cooks and Will Fuller into these two great deep ball threats, but do you realize if you look at Will Fuller's career, he's never actually been that? I know he's really fast, and I know he catches a great deep ball, but that's so much more Cooks' game. Will Fuller's ADOT is typically lower in the 10 to 12 range, which is pretty much just a volume X receiver, not a downfield Tyreek Hill type, Deshaun Jackson type. He's also shown, the only one on the team when healthy, shown an ability to create and hog like difference-making target share. I mean, Cooks has consistently been someone who can create and hog a good top 24, top 12 spike week season target share. Like, he's a great player in Dynasty, because everyone always underrates him where he's always changing teams. He's like a generally Macklin, though, in terms of expectation in some ways, so very different player. But Will Fuller has been a lower ADOT, higher volume guy, and he's really good on it. There was one year where he was a touchdown maker. Everyone thinks of him as this deep ball threat, but all he was is someone that caught touchdowns pretty much in every catch. So you've got this player able to hog volume, is incredibly skilled when healthy, and everyone thinks of him more as a deep threat guy. So I think Will Fuller is the secret wide receiver 1 in Houston. Brandon Cooks is the secret Brandon Cooks. Like, I don't know why we do this when players prove to us who they are. We were always like, oh, well, now they're not good anymore. Like, OBJ is still good. He's reaching a nasty range in Dynasty where his value is too high to buy him on Team All Guy. but hopefully this season helps tank it, and I'll be buying again. Like, players don't stop being good once they've proven to have elite ceilings, or once they've proven what the ceilings are. I have nothing but detailed answers, Brian. I wish I was soundbite guy. I wish I could be like, here's my top 5 buy lows. And then in 3 months, I'll just be talking about the one that worked out, or the 3 that worked out, to be a little fairer to people. I'm not. It's like my rookie process. I can't tell you, just follow this number. I have this whole story in my head, so it's all rants and random emotional charged. Just stop liking QB so much. But as long as you like that, man, I'm your guy, man. I can't. I love doing it. I appreciate the question, dude. I hope it was somewhat useful. Wow, that would be rough. Has Lazard been showing something? I haven't noticed. Oh, wait, he's just come back. That's what it is, isn't it? And, you know, he had that impressive... Look, man, I get it. I get it. I'm not going to tell you not to do it if that's where you're at. Just not. I'm not going to tell other people what to do with their teams. I get it. And Lazard has what? Yeah, he's been fine getting volume. I just think that entire Packers wide receiver core behind Davante Adams is decent. And if I were forcing me to put money on it, I think MVS is the most decent. None of them are Randall Cobb. None of them are that. None of them. That's not to say they're not incredibly impressive players playing with Aaron Rodgers. But if I had to put money on, I think MVS is the one closest to being that guy who can do it. But, you know, Lazard seriously impressed me at the start of this season. I get the dice roll, to be honest. I'm not going to tell you wrong, because I consistently get that backfield wrong. I will say, buying last year when everyone was hyping it wasn't the way to go. I have lots of Lazard and MVS now, because everyone was like, oh, none of them are the guy, which we knew. We could have known. I did know 2 years ago, none of them can be that guy. But MVS was the most impressive of the group. And last week he had a good game, but that's the way that those other wide receivers in the offense are going to be. It's going to be a tough start, going to have to catch fire on a weekly start. But honestly, I don't think I could bring myself to drop more. But if you can, I get it. Like, I get that. He's going to be... I get it. If you're going to just start a guy as your third wide receiver because of a bye week, I could get feeling more confident Lazard's going to go off for some kind of fantasy game than Moore is at this point, especially in redraft. Yeah, I get it. I just don't think I can bring myself to do it. It would suck to drop Moore and then, you know, Robbie Anderson to lose value because he's not catching touchdowns, and then suddenly Samuel and DJ Moore are the top 2 in the offense again, and DJ Moore shows us that top 12 season again. Like, the only thing he was missing in his rookie year was touchdowns, which we forgive. This year's been wild, and actually, while I'm crapping on Robbie Anderson a little bit, to be very clear, the reason DJ Moore is having a rough year is because Robbie Anderson is killing it. He's just my mind's always in dynasty, and he's a tough dynasty value, you know? No one's going to bump him up too much because of his age and his situation and the lack of touchdowns. But yeah. I love throwing darts at those 30 wide receiver 30 to 40s as well. Everyone undervalues them the same way they undervalue Randall Cobb after his top 40 wide receiver season last year. And who knows, maybe, and I always have to build in that I can easily be wrong on a lot of this stuff, right? Always, I'm constantly wrong. I'm constantly being owned by Robbie Anderson and everyone else. So maybe Lazard is capable of that. So I understand kind of throwing that out. Yeah. I was thinking about this lately. My process has changed dramatically over the since last year. Part of it is tilting over 2019. I got so much wrong when I'm used to getting a lot right, seeing a lot of stuff that doesn't actively get seen coming. And that's not a brag. I'm not better than anyone I play with. I just I don't know. I like my process. It gets me in the right places a lot, as everyone probably feels. But 2019 is what I'm trying to say. I felt like I outright stunk. But also, for the last 2 years, I've been playing in leagues with guys like me, just as degenerate, just as smarter, and just as active in their league. I'm playing with Zach Reed and John Michael Check and Gabe Gearing. I'm playing with the podcast hosts of my favorite podcasts at this point. So that I really think that's changed the way I play. And the reason I'm pointing this out is my teams used to be majoritively buy low players because I knew I could do it other ways. I can't survive that way anymore, man. And my team sucks when they're always value to me players. Because my roster used to at least be 50% I value them more than everyone else. But no one else is giving you that value. And when you're in a league with players that are just like you, when you're in good leagues, I was playing in too many bad leagues, clearly. I needed to flip them sometimes, and you can't. If you're the one who values them the highest, you can't flip them. And so, yeah, especially over the last specifically the last 360, 270 days, I strongly had to rearrange the way I build rosters because that edge, I just can't have that much of my bench devoted to I want the next undrafted free agent, because I'm just getting slayed, especially in a year that, and that'll happen a lot, that I just have a rough year in terms of what I expect to happen. So I got to build some extra safety nets in here. Having said that, I do love building buy low teams in that I love my buy low guys, or I love my low value guys. Like no one likes Randall Cobb. No one likes Antonio Golden Gandy anymore, right? Or Justin Watson. I just kind of like having them, People were fighting with me to draft them in the third round of the rookie drafts, and now, they're free. It's just awesome. So, yeah, I appreciate it. I never had either as a wide receiver one. But, yeah, it is 2020 is a shame for them. But, again, crossover. If you haven't noticed, Juju's been back to being Juju, even with Diontae Johnson and Claypool doing them-like things, at least the last 2 weeks. And I think it goes back 3 weeks. So, if everyone's forgetting that, it's still a buy Juju window. I think Juju is the best dynasty wide receiver on that team. I do. I still think that. Even admitting Diontae Johnson's and Chase Claypool has been an impressive rookie. Diontae Johnson's been killing it, fully on the buy list, I believe in all of them at this point. And I still don't give in to the Pittsburgh narrative too much, I think it's them. I think a part of it is them. If Pittsburgh's good at drafting them, awesome. But that's not why I like them. I want some of them to change teams. I want Antonio Brown and Emmanuel Sanders to go to different places, because I think they're all going to be good in the NFL. There's almost too many good new young players, though, which is what's creating this. I get to lean on my old guys again. Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen, even OBJ and Jarvis Landry are going to start falling into that category. On age discounts, their value can no longer rise. But there are a few, to be fair, like Juju, who still be viable at a young age. So it's not like I don't want young players, obviously, in Dynasty. You really think it's his targets that are giving you fits? Because for me, it's been his ADOT. I mean, that's just me. Where was I looking? And honestly, considering you got 3 wide receivers killing it, I mean, how many targets do you need to earn on a team with Chase Claypool, Diontae Johnson, James Conner taking up targets, Eric Ebron taking up targets, and Juju Smith-Schuster's floor has been 2. Okay, but his average has been 5 with all those receiving weapons? Yeah, I think he's fine. Oh, sorry, that was receptions. Shit. His target share right now is 19%, which kind of sucks. But he's got that 114% week. But yeah, his target floor is 4 this season. And he's had a 14 target game. And I think that was one of his worst games, actually. But there you go. A target share floor of 4 when you've got Deontay Johnson sucking up 25% wherever he turns up, Chase Claypool like rushing in touchdowns, Eric Ebron catching touchdowns every other week. Like, I don't know. I nothing has discouraged me from Juju as terms of who he is as a player. But, talent evaluation is a myth. We don't know. But, yeah, he's still the guy I want the most in the... But I get it. Yeah, I've got him in Scott Fishbowl. I have not been enjoying most of the points except for the last few weeks. I get it, man. I got you. Yeah, his ADOT has been what's worrying me. But again, that's partly because of this huge talent crunch. I think some of it's going to just turn out to be one-and-done seasons, hot hand seasons, whether it's Eric Ebron catching touchdowns, or Deontay Johnson being able to attract so much volume. I mean, it has been really impressive, don't get me wrong. But yeah, his ADOT is finally climbing above 3. Let me show you this thing here. Like, he was really tilting me at the start of the season. You've got like an ADOT of 5, 3, jumped up to 8, finally, something close. And remember, his ADOT is typically around 10. But anyway, then 3 the next week, 3 the week after that. And ADOT is typically more stable week over week than most things. And you're seeing this yo-yo. And last week, it finally jumped back up to 7. And so over the last 3 weeks, you've got something that looks a little bit more like Juju Smith-Schuster with it. But still, yeah, where he's getting targets, and you can see it through his AIs as well, it's been really frustrating. I think that's the role he's having to play with this target full offense, which is a good thing for the Steelers. Like, the Steelers should not be like, oh, target Juju more. Like, they got all these weapons, they should use them as well as they can. But I think that's where some of his production's gone. Yep. Doesn't feel like it, does it? And again, that's partly because of how much value his receptions have. His ADOT's been too low. But over the last 3 weeks, he's not going to be the Juju I hoped. I had him ranked top 12. It's probably not going to get there this year. But I still want him as a top 12 dynasty asset, which I think is rare with all these DK Metcalfs and AJ Browns having to jump into that top 12. I think it's going to be hard for anyone to keep him there. And that's kind of where I'm at on him. But I love floor with ceiling. It's pretty rare for a player. And like, his age is like, how old is he? 8? It's like 8 years old or something. That's pretty cool. Speaking of which, well, I've got a rookie page up. Yeah. Okay. Let's up the threshold to it. The average from each conference, if they have 2 top 24 wide receiver seasons, is being calculated on this sheet right here from my rookie database, which again you all have access to pinned to my timeline. And it's a pretty simple formula to write that my YouTube channel shows you how to write if you're interested. And then these that I just built this isn't part of my rookie database, shows you that Juju Smith-Schuster is over the average from his conference, which is the Pac-12, in yards per team pass attempt for wide receivers who had at least top 24 wide seasons. And just throwing it out there, but the wide receivers who have at least 2 top 24 seasons are the Julios and AJ Browns of the world. Very few people make that list and are not like dynasty gold. Like, give me all the Juju. This is a random point because I happen to have the sheet up, but just give me all the Juju. No, I'm trying to find my... There it is. I was going to go look at Pittsburgh in general, since we're talking about Juju. Let's limit it to wide receivers, tight ends. I don't know why Deontay Kane's in here. He's got no stats, and yet apparently he is in here. I don't know why. Deon Kane, sorry. I also didn't know he was on Pittsburgh, apparently. That seems weird. Anyway, where am I? I was going to look at this. Judging within a position, yards per team attempt is probably my favorite. Quick look. Go away, don't it, Kane. And yeah, Claypool's winning. But remember, adjustments are crazy things, okay? We shouldn't adjust as much as we do, but we should also keep in context in mind. So Chase Claypool is averaging 0.95 yards per team pass attempt, which is decent. It's very decent. But his ADOT, his average depth of target, is around 11.4. That is the context that matters for that stat and target share, actually. Juju Smith-Schuster has an ADOT of 5.8 and nearly has as many yards per team pass. Do you know how much better you have to be than someone to produce just about the same amount of yards for your team, for their team's attempts, when you're getting half the value per target? You need to be twice as good. Like, don't get me wrong, Claypool is killing it. This isn't an anti-Claypool take. It's just Juju Smith-Schuster isn't a top 12 wide receiver, but like everything I look at still convinces me he's the wide receiver on this depth chart I'm most convinced of. If that answers something, if that says anything. And Claypool's also. Let me zoom in here a little bit. He's getting a touchdown per 67 yards. That's gonna keep going. Oh yeah, he rushes touchdowns, and he's having a hot hand season. So he could easily keep doing what he's doing this season. This isn't a redraft take, okay? Like, go listen to DFS players. They know much more about week to week who's killing it, right? But I'm evaluating from a dynasty perspective, that's always my default. And I love Claypool. He's doing great. He's raising in my rookie estimations. He's definitely going up in my ranks. It's a given, okay? But asked how Juju's doing, he's being more impressive to me from a dynasty lens. Still. Which reminds me, is DJ Moore? I don't think DJ Moore is. Oh, DJ Moore sucks this year. Yeah, DJ Moore's got a 12 ADOT, and his efficiency is better than Claypool on a similar ADOT, by the way. But yeah, Robbie Anderson is the story of this offense. I just think he's an awkward dynasty asset. You can't get the value he should have out of him. This offseason, everyone's going to say he's older, so that's not going to increase his value. Everyone's still going to, despite dropping him in redraft in some instances, no one's going to give up entirely on DJ Moore. And now Curtis Samuel is back to doing Curtis Samuel-like things. He's a tough dynasty asset. If you got him on your team, you just have him and you enjoy the points. That's what I can figure with Robbie Anderson, which sucks because I didn't see it coming. It's one of the things I definitely got wrong about player and this season. And Robbie Anderson's doing amazing things. And I don't want to undercut this. Robbie Anderson is really good. He's really good in this offense. He's just a tough dynasty asset. That means almost nothing. He's about to catch, he's due about 9 million touchdowns. So if he can drop that allergy, he's going to have a hell of a week or two coming up. But yeah, DJ Moore's been fine on the volume he's been getting. Yeah. See, Juju and DJ Moore are two people I still want in my top 12 in Dynasty, but their value is just, I don't know I can keep them there because ranks have to take into account Dynasty value, right? You wouldn't trade A.J. Brown for either of them right now, so he has to be above him. DK Metcalf, who else is going to raise above him? T. Higgins, Jalen Rager probably by the bottom of the season. CeeDee Lamb, no one's going to want to trade you those guys for CeeDee Lamb. That just pushes them down. But also, that's why I end up buying the older guys, because value-wise, I get it, but I'm convinced these players are still good. I have to admit, I was pushed too high on my rank preseason by DJ Moore because everyone was convinced he was a top 12, and I hadn't gotten there. Like, I liked him. I loved him. As a prospect, he had a good rookie season. Everything, but then all the narrative around him was like, this guy's obviously going to catch more touchdowns and be a top 12 wide receiver, and I kind of got pushed into thinking that way. That's not other people's fault. It's my fault. Like, my process was a little too sheepy there. But again, his season, I still think he's just as good. I just haven't quite seen top 12 season potential from him. But I mean, it's close. I mean, it's in his range of outcomes. It's just, it's like a 25th percentile outcome, not a 50 percentile outcome. Hey, buddy. Yeah, I cleaned it up so you can see more of it. This is Zach Reed from the Dynasty Dummies, by the way. He tries to hide behind this cool Twitter ad of the Tacit Assassin 13. But just so you know, this is a genius behind Dynasty Dummies. I would say Kyle's a genius behind it because that's the way Zach prefers to frame it. But Kyle isn't on the Dynasty Dummies right now. Kyle needs to fix that. So, just saying. Godwin or Juju? They're not even value, right? I don't think you could trade one for the other cleanly. One, you shouldn't do wide receiver to wide receiver trades, obviously, but I think Godwin has more value. So that's the answer, right? And both are good players, so Godwin over Juju. If you're asking me what I'm doing on my team, if I'm targeting a wide receiver, I prioritize Juju because I think he has lower value, and I'm just as convinced he's that level of player. So is that saying both so that I can't be wrong? Maybe, but it's the answer. It's the answer. I don't know, though. I still haven't been able to grab November ADP, so I don't know where they're at. If they're close, the answer is Godwin. If they're far apart, the answer is Juju for my team, if that makes sense. Good question, though. But again, those aren't, unless I'm trying to add value because my team stinks and I need to increase my winning potential, those aren't the wide receivers I focus. It's the older guys. It's maybe Juju because he might fall into that category, but I don't think so based on the last 3 weeks. But then wide receivers in that range of value, potential top 12 for some dynasty ranks, I don't think those are the wide receivers I try to buy unless I'm just trying to add value so I can make more and better trades. Or just trying to store my value because I just need to hunker down for the winter of the offseason coming. Like, I honestly think about it as like squirrels and nuts. Like, I just got to secure all my values. So, like this Myles Gaskin value, this Justin Jackson value, this Robbie Anderson value is just going to disappear. So if my team's not winning, I need to store all that value in something that can survive the winter. I know that's a weird way of thinking about shit, but it's the way I think about shit. So, yeah. Big face. No, he doesn't fool anyone with a dummies comment. He absolutely doesn't, but he keeps it up, No, for real though, Zach's an engineer, which means he does more complicated math before getting out the best than I ever do, and yet everyone thinks of me as the numbers guy. Yeah, I see you, Zach. He just, and this is actually a pretty commonality to people, right? You don't want to spend your fun time doing the same thing that you do your work time, even if you're good at it. He doesn't enjoy it, but he's good at it. It's like anything else. It's actually something I got advised of in school. It's like, make your hobbies something polar opposite to what you do in real life. Because you need to exercise a different part of your brain, and you need to give that part of your brain a break. And so I took up woodworking, I took up hiking, I took up running. They're like, you just do something that's different than reading books for fun, essentially. And I still think it's good advice, man. And that way you're exercising different parts of your mind, you're staying healthy through different versions of your life as well, whether you're exercising your mind for fun or exercising your body for work. Either way it goes, just try and switch it up because brain's a muscle, man. It needs rest. So if you're reading for fun and also you do a lot of time staring at screens or staring at books and statistics for work, like just you got to rest the muscle now and again, Yeah, just exercise a different part of it. That's a weird thing about the brain. It's a single muscle, but there are whole different regions that deal with different parts of it. I'm not a brain scientist. None of that might be true. I guess I got to put a caveat out there. Ryan's ADP's November had CU in the top 5. Wow. I'm not quite there. How do I feel? Again, I've got nothing but detailed answers, Bob. Yeah, I think it's fair. Honestly, I think it's fair. Because that potential exists. He's good on a massive offense. So, yeah, I think it's fair. I guess the line of demarcation is, where is Miles Sanders? You know? He's maybe someone that's a little underrated, and I think I like as much as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even on that offense. So yeah, that would be where I'd like. If not Deion Sanders, Miles Sanders is under it, then that's the guy I prefer. If they're in the same range, then it's fair. It's fine. Yeah. I do worry something about his usage. Clyde Edwards-Helaire's usage this year seems to suggest he's more limited in role than you'd like. He's got the role we want because he's got receiving work, right? And he's rushed plenty as well, but the team seems tentative to use him all out, which is fine. Same with Miles Sanders, same with Alvin Kamara. And they're top 5 guys. Christian McCaffrey isn't in either of their range of outcomes, but they're good and they catch the ball a lot. That's the category I put them in. So yeah, I'm fine with it. Let me see. Top 5 running backs. Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, not in order. Alvin Kamara. And don't we run out after 3 of anyone who has a greater potential than that? So yeah, forcing someone like Miles Sanders or Clyde Edwards-Helaire into that top 5 after those 3, yeah, seems decent. I mean, you run out of those players real quick. So players with not perfect usage, but very good on good offenses with the receiving role, easily can jump into that top 5. You just buy the cheaper one, you know? Good question. I'm looking at running backs, see if I can get you another player. Ezekiel Elliott's obviously falling out of that category pretty fast these days, so he doesn't belong there. Tell you what, someone who probably should be in the top 5, but it's an awkward dynasty thing, is Derrick Henry. I mean, we like receiving work because most running backs need it to be that good. It has a floor, all that great stuff. But some running backs don't catch the ball and are top 5 running backs. Adrian Peterson is a great example. Derrick Henry is one of them. So he's someone that might not be in the top 5 in dynasty or to belong there. That's just not his game, and yet he's good enough at what his game is to be that guy. Joe Mixon, I don't know, man. I was low on him this offseason. I've been both right and wrong on that this season. It's kind of a tough call. I think it's time to call it. He's not a top 5 guy. He has top 12 potential, but I'm not really paying top 5 for the top 12, you know? Josh Jacobs, same thing. He can't sustain that role, apparently. Myles Gaskin has had the most impressive usage no one talks about this season. He's what? What is this? 10th in expected points per game? Myles Gaskin. Okay. At the running back position. Okay. Yeah, and you go to fade the older running backs. Derrick Henry is in them. Todd Gurley has that kind of skill set of those top 3 guys, but he's just... David Johnson is also still good, but in that edge category, you just can't pay that, you know? Saquon Barkley's down here because he hasn't played many games, obviously. I mean, I had Austin Eckler in the top 5 in this offseason, and that was looking perfectly fine to start this season before he got injured. It's the same kind of bet. Only thing is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire has all the draft capital, so you don't have to worry about that as much. The only people that could overtake someone like Clyde is if Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor, or DeAndre Swift became who we thought their highest expectations were. So yeah, really, there's no one to put above Sanders or Helaire, unless you want to argue Derrick Henry, which I wouldn't be against. Yeah, so Miles Sanders would be the one I'd focus there. It's the same bet, but cheaper and more proven. So yeah, Barkley and Zeke. Yeah, I don't think Zeke can be in that conversation anymore. I mean, he has been. He's had an amazing career. He'll still be good. David Johnson's still good. You know, I'm not saying he's like he's done in Dynasty. I am Team Old Guy. I'm saying that highest range of outcomes with value to boot doesn't exist in many players. I can name 3 right now. And then it comes the guys with slightly less higher range of outcomes, but a good amalgamation of that work and the way they've produced on it. So you've got Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then you've got the hopeful category that could leapfrog them, like those rookie running backs. And that's the way it ranks in my mind, at least. I hate ranks. I mean, Kareem Hunt, no, I know. He's got that age problem too. But again, he's like Todd Gurley. He's like David Johnson, someone who can take that workload, has that right range of outcomes, but you can't pay that value for a guy at that point in his career. And that's a separate category. I guess this is me saying tiers over ranks, but not really. I have types of running backs. I don't even have tiers. Hey, Nick Chubb, you know, I can see how it's hard to get someone above Clyde Edwards-Helaire to get him out the top 5, outside of maybe Miles Sanders and Derrick Henry, or that potential category. Le'Veon Bell was the other name I was trying to think of as Team All Guy. They're good. You just can't pay that value, so they drop out the top 5. And they're not going to hit the highest range of outcomes very often if you were to run it a million times at this stage in their career. I mean, some of me thinks that we have just been way too blessed by Le'Veon Bell, who's right here in expected points per game, by the way. Like, very few running backs produce 2 top 5 seasons. Like, very few. LaShawn McCoy is one that I can name. Le'Veon Bell is another. Adrian Peterson, I think, did it. You know, and then you go back to the legendary guys, right? There are a few, and it's worth noting. Also worth noting, most of them have a solid receiving skill set outside of Adrian Peterson and Derrick Henry. Maybe he can get there. But Le'Veon Bell is the only guy who consistently did it through a whole period. If like I'm doing this because that's the way I line them up on a spreadsheet, career finishes, and you can see this golden all green bar on Le'Veon Bell where he's just top 12, top 12, top 12, and most of the time top 5. Like that, it doesn't happen. Two seasons, and running backs repeat less often, and all of this is partly due to injury and teams going and getting other talent. That doesn't mean David Johnson, doesn't mean Le'Veon Bell aren't good anymore. You just can't pay that value, and their range of outcomes gets increasingly in that top 12 and then increasingly in that top 24 as their career goes forward. So, yeah, Le'Veon Bell's of the world, the Christian McCaffrey, he looks like the only other guy that I can name who might do what Le'Veon Bell did, which is successive seasons of relative, incredibly high fantasy production. Barkley's not going to do it. And Barkley may be the most talented running back in the NFL, from what I've been told. But he's not going to do it because he had an injury year. And then he's going to be on a crappy team again. And last year he was on a crappy team. So right now he's stuck at his rookie year. And we're 3 seasons in, and that golden bar is not developing. And at a certain point you age out. So he's pretty much lost the opportunity, not the opportunity, the ability, not because of his talent, to actually hit that golden nugget of Le'Veon Bell's straight production, like a wide receiver level, elite level production for successive years. Not even Saquon Barkley can get there. So just inserting new guys who haven't got there in the top 5, honestly, it's kind of what we should do. Yeah, what I'm saying is Henry could be in that conversation. There are 3 guys who should be in the top 5, and then a blank 2 spots. Henry is probably outside the top 5, but if you're looking for guys with that potential outside the top 5, so you're getting it. And again, those last 2 spots are really just, there's no one else who really fits them all, but we need 5. So they're the next 2. You know, Sanders and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think, would be my 2. But Henry has that potential. He just does it in a different way. We've gotten too used to not valuing because they're very rare, especially now, of a guy who can be top 5 by not being a huge receiver. Like it's like the unicorn of running backs at this point, you know. But he's definitely that guy. He's also 27. La 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 la. So he's entering this value conversation of me saying their top range of outcomes is increasingly less likely. I get it, but his value is already lower than that. It's like buying Zeke, but he isn't underperforming. And in that value range, he might be, I guess you'd call it top 5 running back target, I guess, more than dynasty rank, because, again, rank has to take value into consideration because ranks are meant to tell you, you know, something about trades and something about who to target and who to do what with on your dynasty roster. It's not purely production. It's not purely value, you know. Again, only detailed answers. I got no sound bites. Unfortunately, I know. And that's not me like, I have no sound bites. I wish I had sound bites. It makes this shit so much easier if you can just like have it in a sentence or have a ranking order. But I don't. Everything I do is like a narrative. I don't have a bullet point plan, you know? Sorry. Right? You're not saying I said that. Surely. Let me go grab my podcast episode. No. Christian Kirk has continued to impress with his volume, adjusting by his career year and expected outcome of having 2 or 1 top 24 season. Like, he's increasingly been more impressive. He might be another Tyler Boyd, a guy who's done well, but people's value didn't rise on, even despite being young. That's, if you're going to ask me who Christian Kirk is and an allegory for it, it's Tyler Boyd, because that's exactly what happened to Tyler Boyd. I think someone asked me if he's a sell now. I think there's an argument to say that we've passed his lowest buy window. Like, we're not going to get him as cheaply as we have gotten him before. So in that way, everything becomes an increasing potential for a sell window, right? You just don't want to sell cheaply because I believe he's a good player. So I believe his value is sustainable and can only increase while he's young, at least. So it's awkward in that it would be hard to milk him as a buy candidate as his values, hopefully, sure to increase. If it doesn't, he's like the buy candidate of 2020. No, not the buy candidate, but a buy candidate, at least. Hey, dude, want to become famous? Buy followers, primes, and viewers on that link? No. Thank you, though. Same thing from this guy? No, I don't. Like, I honestly don't. I'm good. Thanks. I would never slander you like that, Peter. I appreciate it, Spaceman. All right. Travis Fulgrim's still awesome, by the way. Team old guy. Marcus Brown, still underrated. He's someone whose ceiling I'm not sure of, but he's going to produce top 24 seasons throughout his career. And like, he's always outside the top 24. He just always is. Marcus Brown is underrated, damn it. I know he's like a top 50 points per game wide receiver right now, but he is. Oh, Corey Davis dropped a wide receiver 29 in points per game. That's sad. I don't like that at all. I'm not about it. Corey Davis forever, man. You know, Justin Jefferson's numbers finally dropped down into something like sanity. It's still phenomenal, like a 1.44 yards per team attempt with a 12.8 ADOT. Talk about slot receivers, right, Spaceman? I don't think people know what they mean when they say that. Seriously. Anyway, but yeah, that's just human. He's now not superhuman. I mean, upper tier human, but human. Kenny Galladay's probably admit he's done more than I thought he could this year. I was the highest on Kenny Galladay ever, no matter what more famous people say. But I always thought of him as more of a top 24 season, but he's shown a little bit more of a ceiling than that this year. I don't think it's going to happen, but. N'Keal Harry is a young buy candidate for me. Like, again, he had an impressive, so far, he's had an impressive sophomore year when he really shouldn't have based on his rookie year. No one likes him. Like, that's just value going forward, I think. It's like the Christian Kirk of last year. There you go. I got a soundbite in. Had to work hard for it, though. And Devontae Adams is my wide receiver one. I know I talked about this with some people in a group chat that I respect, and they were saying it's really hard to say there's a very clear one, and I respect that opinion, but it's very clear to me. Like, there's a separation between Devontae Adams and everyone else for me right now. Significant enough, I would trade Devontae Adams for wide receiver 2, because that's the way John Bosch tried to tweak me. Yes, I would trade Devontae Adams for DK Metcalf if that's your 2, or whoever is your 2. It's just it. That's where I'm at. Can I just say that? I'd love to adjust this stat by ADOT, but it's all buckets, and I kind of hate bucket adjustments. I've come to hate bucket adjustments, put it that way. Tyler Lockett, Keenan Allen, they're my kind of buys, you know. Even Kenny Galladay at this point, probably in this offseason. Adam Thielen. Sutton. Is Sutton buyable? Because I have no Sutton, because I screwed up that rookie draft. But I'd like to. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. God, if Michael Pittman and Brandon Ayuk happen, they're not going to, but if they happen, Travis May is just going to, like, own a chunk of my ass. Like, you know, I have to rent it from him. Not good. It's not good. Tim Patrick season, man. Nice. I mean, not last week, but still wish I'd been higher in Keelan Cole. Not that it's mattered a hell of a lot, but he's had a good season. Keelan Cole or Visca Chenault? I'll take Cole. How about that? I can feel you all tilting on age about my Devontae Adams and my Keelan Cole versus Visca Chenault take, but I don't care. You should tilt. You should tilt if you care about age that much. Michael Gallup's got to be a buy by now, right? He's a buy in the same way I just kept buying Tyrell Williams until he got injured again. God, I wish MVS would stop forgetting how to catch passes. He could have had such a good season, but again, they're just kind of all guys. Hey, Preston Williams' season is back now that Tua is, you know, not terrible, apparently. He never was, as a joke. He never was terrible. Darnell Mooney, has everyone forgotten he's having an impressive rookie season yet? Because I would really like to acquire more Darnell Mooney for the future. Like, he's who everyone wanted Anthony Miller to be. That's what I think. And Miller's been having a good season, but he's having a good season 2 further years in at an older age, so on and so forth. Or become famous again? No, thank you. Not at all. Not even a little tempted by that. Kobe Bryant season? No, not really. Good game though. I thought New England played this week. Is my mind going funny? New England didn't play this week? Am I remembering week 8 game as if it's a week 9 game? Maybe. Okay. Man, that's embarrassing. All right. Gonna stop processing this to write my target share article for tomorrow. They played Monday night. Oh, okay. All right. They're playing Monday night. Got it. Well, they played Monday night. Hey, dude. Over the last 5 years, I don't think I have it tracked. Well, my rookie board I've been doing, and it's a link I dropped in the chat where I rank them pre and post draft. I've been doing that for about 2 years, and I once did that. I compared how my value had changed on them, but I could use my market share database and the models, I guess, to rank them and show how I've changed. Yeah, I did some of that earlier in terms of wide receivers. There are a few moving up that I mentioned. Not really moving down yet because I'm going to hold to my rookie ranks, But, Henry Ruggs jumps up a tier. I think T. Higgins jumps up at least 1 tier based on that rookie board. Haven't seen anyone on a decrease. But yeah, I could do something like that. It's probably more long form, like just dropping it right here. Probably is just me and you chatting. And off the top of my head, I probably wouldn't give you the best overview. Are you interested in why I would move them up or move them down, or just how accurate my changes have been, or just, owning myself for all the things I got wrong? What would be the interesting part of that for you? And I could focus on it, maybe try and do a podcast episode on it, or focus on it next live stream. Just let me know. Yeah, New England plays tonight. Spaceman got me, but I appreciate it, Bob. I'm getting lost in weeks. I've got memories of games that happened 3 weeks ago, and I'm like, wasn't that last week? I got a terrible memory. It all gets jumbled up and mixed up in here, and it's not good. All right, let's look at it this way. Robbie Anderson, Jarvis Landry, and Michael Gallup. Also, LaVisca Chenault, Russell Gage, Kendrick Bourne, Amari Cooper all lead the league in expected touchdown regression right now at wide receiver. Like, they've been underperforming the amount of touchdowns they get per yard. So they should catch a touchdown soon. Is what that translates to. At running back, it's Brian Hill, but I don't think he's touching the ball enough to do it. David Montgomery's due some touchdowns or a touchdown, but it also just kind of sounds like something David Montgomery would maintain, doesn't it? Philip Lindsay, interestingly enough, not enough touchdowns for his yardage total. Clyde Edwards-Helaire seems to be someone that Perma belongs on this list as well. And Freeman, I think Freeman just might lose his role. I don't know, the way he's been performing on it. And tight ends, which are more prone to it. Hunter Henry, man, I wanted to play him DFS so bad last week, just because he's due touchdowns, getting volume, and was cheaper priced. But I ended up going with Waller, and it was fine. But yeah, Henry still seems to be No, I'm gonna have to go look at their red zone usage. I don't understand. But tight ends do seem to yo-yo back and forth with touchdowns so much. But yeah, it's Henry at tight end position who needs to regress in touchdowns moving forward. Does this work with tight end? Well, quarterback will. Well, yeah, we can ignore Andy Dalton on this list and Joe Flacco, Luton, Sam Darnold. We know why. Daniel Jones, Eric Gilbert. Was he actually impressive last week? Because the stats actually look kind of impressive. Last week, yesterday, same thing. No one's significantly looking like they need more touchdowns at quarterback that actually still has a starting job, except for maybe Garrett Gilbert. I think he might have performed better than some people realize, but I don't know how people think about how he performed yet. Russell Wilson is superhuman, but also Deshaun Watson. I sent out a message where I've got like 5 or 6 guys I send emails to with my initial projections to say, hey, let me know who I've got in here I shouldn't have in here or anything that looks crazy. Like sometimes a wide receiver pops up with like 25 yards per reception, or a tight end pops up with a touchdown per half a reception, something like that. And also we talk about game scripts and stuff. But I sent a note out to him last week when I was doing projections, like I can't keep Deshaun Watson below Russell Wilson. And that's something like I thought it normally happens, right? Deshaun Watson gets projected slightly below Russell Wilson, even though he's killing it, because it's Russell Wilson's year. But they said, no, it's just a smash spot for him. So I went with it. Pretty happy I did, or that they made me, I guess. But yeah, it just strikes me that those two are having I mean, Dak Prescott was the only other one close to type of season they're having. And don't get me wrong, we know Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray's killing it, but again, but those two are just kind of off the charts right now. Yeah, I can do that for individual players. I could even do it for an entire rookie class, but multiple classes, like it would be multiple episodes because you got so much to run through there for every individual player. Like, I know it doesn't seem like it, but when you get to talking, as I have learned, like when I started explaining what I thought of Juju in 2017, that's 2 minutes, a minute to explain what actually happened. And then 2018, you get up to 20 minutes real quick on one player. I can condense that down and do 20 minutes, 30 minutes on a class, how they changed over time, what went right and wrong. Yeah. But yeah, I can work on that. I try and get you my thought process when I look back and see what I see, It's actually, something I do pretty regularly for myself anyway, but I don't know. It's in content form up here. It's just all kind of one mess of understanding, I would have to work to clear that up. Hell no. I'm trying to make the podcast a little more focused dynasty perspective. I'm trying to make that relative to week stuff. But I'll work on it, and I might be able to produce it this season as well. But yeah, just take a class, show what I thought, what happened, then what I thought again, then what happened, then what I thought again, what happened. That all kind of boils into the quote unquote mantras or rules of thumb I'm always pushing about Dynasty, by the way. Like that's part of where all that is based. But as I learned with the Target Share article, some people literally like to see the guts of how it's created rather than just, tell me the end result, So, yeah. Sorry, I'm reading Twitter. Wow, a lot of messages. What's this thing? I don't know. I got a lot of responses, but I can't find the start of the thread, if you know what I mean. Spaceman owning me online. Appreciate it. Okay, here it is. What are five of your top interests besides football? Really think I have, scope for more things? I spent my life on this shit. This work, I guess. No, I really enjoy running. I don't pay attention to the sport so much. Like, I don't know who the best runners in the world anymore or anything. I just enjoy running. Woodworking, I like building things. I especially like making handles for knives and old tools. I haven't been able to do a lot of that recently. This is the thing I'm responding to here. I guess they're mostly hobbies, so I can't include like reading history books and shit because that's also partly my job. Backpacking and traveling is not a thing you do when you're poor and have kids, so that really can't be on the list anymore. I do like murder mysteries in that I watch a lot of videos these days instead of reading books, so it doesn't count, I'm subscribed to a lot of those channels, and I'm sorry, history is on the top 5 list. I spent a lot of time listening to podcasts and reading books about different areas of history because that's my jam. How about you guys? No. Crossover, I get it. We're trying to make decisions on week-to-week decisions, but you're trying to project what his receiving work would be moving forward based on games that literally you will forget when we start looking back at what his actual trend is. Like, remember week 9 or week 7 or week 6. Yeah, a season's worth of data is barely enough to say what the trend is for his career. So I get it, but I think his usage is just going to, like we've seen, spike up and down as this backfield works itself out. It's frustrating that he's not a Barkley who can just come in and elbow literally everyone and anyone out the way, or a Christian McCaffrey for that matter. But that's not what's happening. So I would try not to make too many definite conclusions about his receiving role in this offense. What I would say is Baltimore's a low-passing offense. Is going to continue to be a low-passing offense. He's a good receiver, not a Christian McCaffrey receiver who demands wide receiver target share. I know some people try to argue Christian McCaffrey isn't a good receiver, but they need to go, shut up, because it's not true. But Jacob Dobbins is a good receiver. I don't think he's someone that demands that role. The team will use him in that role, but you kind of need a very significant target share to make a really good running back floor in that kind of offense. But we know that shifts. Jackson's a decent passer, above average. So they could increase their passing volume at some point, but that's not what the offense's plan is. In that way, I'd be worried about his receiving floor in the future. He would need to get, 12, 13, 14, 15% for it to be significant for his career. He's good enough for that. But yeah, in that way I'd be worried, but not based on what he's been doing. His usage has been fine for a rookie with that skill set who's going to be good going forward. Just talk on 2 separate levels there. But yeah, I get it from the offense, but not from the player, if you know what I mean. And including hanging with your wife and kids as 5 things you prefer. Like, yeah, I mean, I assume you're not so psychopaths. Like, that's not an answer. That's just trying to get kudos for, and that's fine. But like, they're not on my list. Like, you should know I'm not a sociopath or a psychopath that doesn't have that being some of my favorite time in my life. Like, yeah, I like my wife and kids quite a lot. Just so you know, if you needed that put on a list, then I worry about what you think about just people you see on the internet. I just genuinely assume they enjoy spending time with their family unless they say otherwise. It's just a good list. But yeah, cool. Good to know I don't have to worry about you being a sociopath. Yeah, I get that because he would need a very high target share or significantly above average running back target share for that receiving floor to be there for him. He's a good enough receiver to do it, I do think, but he's not someone that's going to demand it. So it might change, need a little bit of change from the offense perspective. But honestly, it's just a condensing of the depth chart could do that. Yeah, I get this, but wide receiver target share is volatile. It's not as steady as ADOT, for example. And the way I said that, we always talk about or think about players with stability and solid floors. But again, on a week-to-week perspective, that's really difficult to prove. Jarvis Landry and DeAndre Hopkins, two of the highest volume receivers in their times when they're playing well. That you can get, or Keenan Allen. And yet, if you look at their week-to-week actual targets, that's why I've got that column in my database showing the percentage of games with targets over 7 or whatever it was. And you'll see there's very few that actually even get, 60%. Those are currently averaging like over 100 or 100% or whatever. And that's probably going to change. Because it's hard not to be volatile in targets, given game script and everything else. Like the best we got right now is what? They've probably got a few hundreds. Terry McLaurin and AJ Brown, which stick out. But remember, AJ Brown's missed games, so that's probably going to drop into the 80s range, despite being great players. Target volume week to week is incredibly volatile. I mean, when we looked at Juju, where it goes from like 4 to 7 to 6 to 8, and that's stability at wide receiver. That's just a rough part of it. So I get the Tyler Lockett problem, but Tyler Lockett is the volume receiver in that offense. DK Metcalf is now apparently also the volume receiver in that offense, and that's just part of the unbelievable year Russell Wilson's having, and both of those wide receivers are having. But wide receivers can be that volatile. What's adding to that, my thought is adding to that, as far as my thoughts on the offense go, is that remember that Seahawks are still not a high passing offense. I know that's a shock to, let Russ cook teams, but like they're 15th in passing attempts. And frankly, they're only passing about 8% more on total team attempts than they were last year, which is a lot. It's good, and Russell Wilson is so efficient, he can make it happen with it. But they're still not passing a lot, and that's part of the volatility and it will happen to Metcalf too, I think. Although apparently Metcalf is just impervious to all problems, which, he's a big enough guy. Maybe it's true. I wouldn't want to be a problem for DK Metcalf. Let's be very clear. But yeah, I'm not worried about it. It's a lower volume offense with a natural tendency for raw targets to zigzag back and forward. In terms of his target share, though, you asked about, I don't think we could do a coefficient of variation calculation to find out for sure, I guess. But I don't think it's that much different than most high volume wide receivers, to be honest. Let's see. Yeah, you see it bouncing from 5 to 20 in terms of raw targets. Yeah, he's only got 2 games really below 20% of targets. If you want to count last week where he got 18%, it's one of those damn weeks, that's fine, but that's like 3 out of 9? So his target share is actually relatively stable for a high volume wide receiver. It's just a lower passing offense, and that creates more ping-ponging in the raw targets. I mean, literally all the way from 5 to 20 on any given week. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it. I start him every week, and I have no qualms about doing it. Consistency week to week is a myth. It doesn't exist. And that's true for Jarvis Landry, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, the highest volume wide receivers in the NFL. Go look at DeAndre Hopkins' season laid out week to week and look at his target share or targets. Like the first time I saw it, it's like, oh, that's why consistency isn't making sense. Even DeAndre Hopkins fucking yo-yos, man. It's kind of crazy that way. So, yeah. Anyway, I think I'm going to get out of here, guys. My throat's starting to hurt, so I'm assuming I've been on here for pretty long. If anyone has any more questions or whatevers, I'm constantly available on Twitter, DLF, podcast comments, I guess, whatever else. And I stream every Monday, and I'm going to start to make it more of a show, me talking, instead of me sitting, hoping someone turns up to entertain everyone else, Yeah, I mean, and the 6 targets is a really, that's a DeAndre Hopkins level target floor. Let's just say it like what it is. 6 targets floor, one of the best wide receiver volumes in the NFL. But yeah, that's not what we're used to getting from him, right? Having said that, I think the underlying concern in your question there is DK Metcalf is amazing in this offense, in the way he plays. And that's significant. I'm still Tyler Lockett for life, bruh. But yeah, you can't ignore that. Corey Davis for life, but I can't ignore that AJ Brown is a dynasty guy you want. And that's very real. That's very real. DK Metcalf is great. AJ Brown is phenomenal. So that's real. So there it becomes a value question. I hate to keep doing it, but if I can get Lockett for a decent enough discount, and he's a volume guy in that offense, with Russell Wilson, same with Corey Davis, but to a much bigger discount, right? So yeah, I know the underlying concern there is legitimate. It's real. You should prioritize DK Metcalf over Tyler Lockett in that way, especially when you're building value. But I have no concern. Not in the. I know, is DK Metcalf is Tyler Lockett a sell? No. He's a really good player and a great offense. He gets decent target share. It's just going to zigzag nature of that offense and all offenses, frankly. Hey, no problem, guys. Thanks for coming along and asking questions, man. I really appreciate it. I'm hoping actually planning to talk throughout the entirety of it will make it a better thing to show up for. If you want me to include anything or, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to stream, and I don't know what might be entertaining. I just enjoy talking to you about football, but I get that might be not the best whatever this is. So, yeah, always let me know. If you want me to bring certain results or stop talking about something else or just stick to week-to-week decisions, let me know. Really appreciate it, guys. I will see you again next week. I'm going to go spend time with my family because that's in my top 5 favorite things to do. Because it should be, unless, reevaluate things. But yeah, appreciate it, guys. Love you all. Thanks. Bye.